If you're anything like me, you've got a ton of white paper scraps. But what do you do with them? I've got a few ideas. Let's get crafting. The first thing I'm going to do is use strips for texture. Okay, so I begin my project by digging out some paper strips out of my white scrap bin. And I want all of my scraps to be about 1/4 inch to an inch. I don't want anything wider than an inch because I'm still working with a standard A2 card panel and base. So that's 5.5 by 4.25. So I'm just going to cut down anything, and don't worry if it's got stuff on the back side. That's going to be glue side down, so it doesn't really matter. So once you've got your strips cut, then you want to cut them to about 5 inches long. You just want them wider than your card. You'll notice this one's a little wonky. It's not straight. It doesn't matter. Go with it. It's actually going to make a pretty cool card. My paper trimmer was not cutting well, as you can see here. So since I generally cut up with my paper trimmer, I'm just taking it out, the blade, and flipping it around so I get more use out of that blade without having to replace it. And I'm going to continue on. So I'm going to speed this baby up and we're going to get rocking and rolling. Now I'm going to be working on a card panel that is the same 4.25 by 5.5, and I'm using my liquid glue. Now, if you've been around me for a while, you know I love my Barely Arts Precision Craft Glue. You could certainly use a tape runner if that's what your jam is, but I like my glue. So this card is meant to be wonky. I am just going to put some glue, not all the way to the edge though, because I want some of that to overhang. And I'm just going to slap it on the cardstock. It is not meant to be straight. It's meant to be wonky, and it's meant to just add texture. And you want different size strips next to one another. Now, if you cut longer strips, you could certainly do this vertically and have vertical strips. It's up to you. Really, the sky's the limit here. On my second panel, I wanted to keep this one clean and simple, so I am going to do very straight lines for this one. I'm using my glass mat to help me line up those strips, and you could change the orientation of your strips, of your layered panels. You could make your stripes vertical, you could make them diagonal. Really, the sky's the limit. Have fun with it. This was really easy and a great way to use up those white strips. Using this very same technique, you can use pattern paper for your base layer. So I'm just cutting mine down. I want my card on this one to have a little bit of a border. So I'm cutting this down to 4 by 5.25. And I'm going to do the exact same thing with my paper strips. I think I went with wonky on this one. Why not? You are probably thinking I have lost my mind, but trust the process. It comes out really nice. Okay, once you've given your strips some time to dry, go ahead and flip your cardstock over. I'm using Tim Holtz 9.5-inch titanium shears, but you're going to go ahead and trim those sides off. And do that for all 3 of your cards if you're crafting along with me. And here's where I'm going to let you know it is a-okay to get rid of those last remaining paper scraps. Don't keep them. Now I'm going to go ahead and attach my new layer with texture onto my card panel. And I did choose to make it the full size of my card panel. And I'm just sprucing up this card with some ephemera and a sentiment. Easy peasy. I'm not even decorating the inside because I want these to be note cards. If you have other ways to use white paper scraps, let me know in the comments below. I'm on to my second card, and I am trying to decide if I want my stripes to be vertical or horizontal. And I've gone with horizontal at this point, and I'm going to go ahead and adhere that panel. and I'm going to adhere my ephemera. I want the ephemera to kind of take up a lot of space on this particular card, and I'm just working out where do I want it? Center. I'm going to go for the top left, and this sentiment just says hip hip hooray. Now, this could certainly be a congratulations card, a birthday card. I don't know yet. So once again, I'm going to leave that center open for whenever I decide what kind of card it's going to become. My third card, uh, again, this is really wonky and very unexpected, but a great way to use up that pattern paper that we all hoard as well. And it looks a little stark here. This is going to be a side folding card, but I'm going to add some dusty blue foliage and a sentiment that was also in this particular ephemera pack. I have no idea where this one was from, but I'm pretty sure that I picked it up at Tuesday morning before they closed. But this one just says cherished memories. So this could be a sympathy card. And, we need to have a few of those on standby. But here's our final look at these three cards before we move on to my next idea. My second tip is to use those leftover strips for sentiments. Make up sentiments ahead of time. Now, this is how I store mine. I have little baseball card inserts, and whether or not I make them or I print them and cut them, I store them all in here like products together. And a lot of these are printables. Sometimes they're die cuts, but I don't really have to dig very far if I'm looking for something. This one I'm going to do is Thinking of You, and I'm just going to stamp it out with some VersaFine Clear black onyx ink and stamp out as many as I can. I think I get 4 out of this strip, and then simply cut them apart. Stick them in my book, and I am ready if I need a card that says Thinking of You. My next idea is to use your white scraps to practice techniques. Now, I am not a colorist. I got some Copics in a craft haul. I don't color well, and I need to do a better job at that. So I'm going to be using this particular scrap. It's a large scrap. It's almost a half a page, but it's not square, and it doesn't matter. This is Hero Arts, and it is Time for Cake Stamp and Die Set. Now, I am going to place all of the stamps from this particular set onto this piece of cardstock. In the meanwhile, while you're watching that, I got this technique from Tanya from Riley and Company online. She has a fantastic little store, um, and she has super cute characters. And if you like snarky comments, she's got something called Funny Bones. Please go check it out. They're adorable. And the cut ups are kind of like paper dolls. If you remember paper dolls when you were a kid, this is just like that. But I've been following her on YouTube, and her tutorials are great because they're teaching me an easier way to use Copics. Now, some of these stamps are new, so in order to get the chemical gunk off of them, I'm just using a glue eraser on the back of my stamps, and then I'm going to go ahead and ink them up and get them ready for Copic coloring. I'm going to be using Memento dye ink in Tuxedo Black. This is a Copic friendly ink, and I really need to re-ink my stamp pad, and well, I couldn't find the ink pad for quite some time, but after my organizational video, I found it, so yay me. Don't you worry, I am not going to make you sit through my sad attempts at coloring, but I am going to show you what happens afterward. Okay, so my panel is all colored, and you'll notice that I have a piece of copy paper with all of the Copic colors and their respective numbers listed. And I'm just going to use some tape runner to adhere that cardstock to my copy paper. Now, my memory being what it is, I am going to go ahead and write Hero Arts, the brand, and Time for Cake. That's the name of the stamp set and die set, along with where I organize it. So in this case, you'll see that I'm going to move that little piece of paper. I organize it. It is number 59 and it is in my birthday section of stamps and dies. So when I'm looking through my binder, I can find exactly what I'm looking for. I'm placing my completed sheet into a sheet protector, and then it's simply going to go into a binder of all my colored images. Okay, here's my completed sheet, and I have photocopied another one, and all I have to do is die cut it. I've also got a couple of other things that I've done, some stamps that I have in my section, and they're ready to be photocopied and cut out as well. Super great technique for cutting time when you need to cut time. So here's where I am die cutting this particular die set. You can also photocopy multiple copies of this, die cut them, and store them in a similar binder system that I do with the baseball cards. That way, when you need a birthday card, you've got sentiments and images already ready to go. The fourth way that I use up paper scraps is with dies and punches. Now I've taken some white paper scraps and I have colored them with picked raspberry, worn lipstick, and candied apple distress oxide inks. And you'll notice that the blends are not very even and it doesn't matter. And I'm just going to use a heart-shaped punch to punch as many as I can out of those little pieces of cardstock. I'm using my glass mat to help me line up the hearts, and although it's messy right now, it won't be by the time we use them. And of course a jewel picker to pick those little babies up. And I'm just going the light pink, the worn lipstick, and then the candied apple. I'm going to line them up and I'm going to pick them up with some low tack tape so that I can apply the glue all at once and apply them to my card all at once. Efficiency is key here. Using low tack tape like I'm using here is a great hack for keeping letters lined up when you're creating words on your card front. To the right of the card, you can see that I have a larger heart shape that I've done with a die cut, as well as a vellum piece. Now this also happens to be a scrap. So other than the card base, everything that I used for this card was scrap. My fifth suggestion is to use cardstock in place of foam for added dimension. So in this case, I have taken my large heart and I'm going to sandwich it with some vellum. And that's going to provide just a little bit of lift off of my card. I had some leftover hearts, so I finished the inside of my card by putting a line of those. And then I also added a few to the top and used a multi-liner to write some conversation heart sentiments. So I've given you 5 ways to use up your white paper scraps, but would you like more? I have 10 additional ways for a total of 15 ways to use up your white paper scraps on a free PDF that you can download. Just head over to my description box and click on the link, enter your email address, and you'll be able to download that PDF form. If you'd like other ways to use up pattern paper, I've got a playlist for that too, and I'll link that just on the next screen. Until next time, I'll see you real soon.